To the JHM 4.2 liter V8 intake manifold spacer installation video. We're going to go over some overview on what you have to unhook to do this installation. First thing you obviously have to do is unhook the engine covers with 3 little fasteners. They pop right off. They just drop in these little spots. Other one pops right off. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and go over every little connection that you're going to have to worry about when doing this installation, just to kind of cover our game plan here. Okay, one of the first things to get out of the way to make it easier is to get the fuel rail off. The fuel rail is held on by 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts. So just undo those 4 10mm bolts, and then you just swing the fuel rail out of the way, and you leave the fuel line hooked up. There's no reason to unhook it. There's only one fuel line because this is a returnless style fuel injection system. So you're going to unhook that, just move it out of the way. If put a fender cover if you're worried about scratching the fender, or just stick it up there out of the way. So you get the fuel rail out of the way, and when you undo the fuel rail, you got to remember to undo the injector connectors, and those have little buttons you got to push right there. See the little button you got to hit, and then they pop off, and they're all kind of interconnected. So the little button, you unhook all those, so that way you can get the fuel rail off. Once the fuel rail's off, you got to then undo the bolts on the intake manifold. But before that, you obviously want to unhook some certain connections. A couple of those connections are these 2 wires near the front of the motor. You could get these later, but if you can get them now, it'd be great. Gives you a little bit more slack. These are for knock sensors, those 2 connectors. You also have to worry about, on this side, there's a vacuum line. You can see it right here. You need to unhook. Then near the back of the motor, you need to unhook this vacuum line right here for the brake booster. You need to take your MAF boot off, which is 1 hose clamp, 2 hose clamp, and then a fitting right here. And then once that's off, then you're going to go ahead, near your oil filter, there's a couple connections you're going to have to undo. There's one vacuum line down here that you're going to want to unhook. It's got like a reuse type clamp, and that's a vacuum line. You could swing that out of the way. Then you got 2 coolant lines, and there's one right there. You can see there's a clamp on there now. This is because we just finished the installation, but this would be a one-time reuse clamp that you'd have to undo. And same with this one right here. So 2 there, and then this clamp right here for the breather. So once all those lines are unhooked, so there's 2 coolant, 1 breather, 1 vacuum, that stuff's out of the way. You got the MAF boot out of the way, you got the brake booster line out of the way, then you want to unhook the connector for your drive-by-wire throttle body. And that's easily done by, you want to push up on this tab right here, and what it does is it releases a flap up inside, and then that would come off. And then over here there's a couple vacuum lines hooked to this little splitter, so we can get a good shot of it here. There's like a T right here, you can see this T, and there's a vacuum line going near the front of the motor, so you want to unhook the vacuum line here, and then there's another one going down here and over. So you're going to unhook those 2 vacuum line connections. Once you got that, you're pretty much home free. Then you're going to want to undo the 7 bolts for the intake manifold. There's only 7 per side. You only undo the Allen bolts. Like if you see here, see you got a Torx and an Allen, you only do the Allen. You basically do the outer perimeter in like a U shape around. So there's 2 near the front, there's 2 in the back, and there's 3 down along the cylinder head. Both sides. So 7 per side. They're 5mm Allen, and those are 14 in all. Once you get those off, the intake manifold should be easy to move around. At that point, you'll pick the manifold up near the back, you'll lift it over the oil filter a little bit, and then you got to unhook some more connections up here. Up here there's going to be a large vacuum line, about 1/4 inch in size, near these connectors, and if you hadn't undone these connectors already, you're not going to have a lot of slack, so you can probably unplug these connectors at this point. And then the connectors have to be slid out of these metal brackets they're in. You can see it's in a metal bracket. Then after it's out of the metal bracket, that's out of the way. Then there's 2 more of those over here. You can't see them right now, but when the manifold's up and over, you can do it. And you're going to go ahead and pull them out of those brackets. And then you need to unhook these 2 wires here. There's a gray wire. You can see the connector right there. And then there's a black connector down in there as well. So you got a black and a gray sitting right there. There you go. You can see there's the black There's the gray. So black, gray. We got knock sensor wires here, knock sensor wires there. Got vacuum line up top, vacuum line below, 2 little vacuum lines here, 2 coolant hoses, a vacuum line, a breather hose, a vacuum line, and a MAF boot. And before all that, you get the fuel rail out of the way. That's the game plan. So now we're going to go ahead and attack it. We kind of wanted to give you a little game plan since, unfortunately, this video was pretty much one shot, first install. So it's going to be a little choppy. But I think if you watch the video all the way through and see our game plan, and especially on the reassembly, we did a little better on the reassembly footage, you'll have a really good idea. So watch the video all the way